All right, we're here with Angelo Sosa, who is actually here in his own restaurant, Social Eats. Why don't you tell us a little bit about when you discovered that you wanted to cook and where your passion for it came from?
Sure. So, why I wanted to cook?
How you got into cooking?
Sure. That's a difficult question. No, I'm just kidding. Yeah, I mean, I come from a big family. You want to talk to me?
Either way.
I come from a big family. There's 7 kids in my family. My father's Dominican, my mother's Italian. We grew up in a very small country town. My father was always about sustaining for the family. We had a relatively big garden, and my childhood wasn't normal. Like, I wasn't playing kickball or playing baseball. I was weeding the garden or tilling the garden or cooking with my father on the weekends. So it was from a very early age, cooking was very relevant in my life. I think my greatest inspiration was my Aunt Carmen. It was my Dominican aunt, and she lived here in New York. And coming from Connecticut, when we would visit her, all the kids would run into her house and just go right by the kitchen, where I would run into the house and run to the kitchen and just watch her and be mesmerized by how she would cook. So that's when my true passion and love for cooking became evident.
And did you go to culinary school or?
Sure. Yeah, I went to 2 different culinary schools. One in Connecticut. It was more of a community college. They had a culinary program, and then after that, I went to the Culinary Institute of America.
Okay. And what led to your progression onto being on television? How did you go from?
Is it big?
There was well, where did you go from college? And then
from college, I actually worked. When I was at the Culinary Institute of America, I worked for this French chef, and he's like, I'll send you anywhere in the world. You could go to France, you could go wherever you want, to New York. He's like, but I have this amazing chef that could really take you under his wing and teach you the ways. So I went and worked for this French chef named Christian Bertrand. Worked for him about 3 years, and then after that, he sent me to Jean-Georges. So I spent 4 years with Jean-Georges here in New York City. 3 at the flagship, and 1 helping him open other projects, Spice Market, and as well as in the Bahamas. So yeah. I guess part of the question.
And then you ended up obviously on television.
Yeah, so I mean, there's still a long story, but yeah, I recently was on Top Chef. It was something that about 5 years ago I was thinking about doing, then I wasn't sure if it was the right time for me. And about a year ago, the Top Chef actually reached out to me, and my business partner and I we kind of just weighed the pros and cons, and it literally came to the deadline where it was still up in the air, and it was pretty even, so I just said yes. And it actually ended up working to my advantage, and it was just an amazing, life-changing experience.
Now, when you were in culinary school and working under other chefs, did you ever think that you would be on a reality show? And since it was all about cooking for you, I mean, it was obviously something that probably didn't enter your mind.
I mean, definitely when I was going to school, reality shows never even existed.
Right.
And the concept of going on a reality show, so like, you kind of know what the word means, reality show, but when you're in it, all you're doing is cooking through your passion, and then you don't realize that watching it on TV, like producers and everybody else, the producers, they have a different story angle. They have a story angle that they want to tell. They want to tell a story that's going to sell, right? So I think for me to be on TV was amazing. For me to see certain things of how things were edited, it was very interesting for me. But I think all in all, it was really just the most redefining moment in my career. It really just helped me as an individual, helped me really focus on what my focal points are, and coming into the future, and really how even like the concept of not compromising, like really just it made a big impact on this show, because especially if you're going to make it to the end, you really have to be on your game, and people are really pushing you to your limits. The judges are testing you, the challenges are testing you, and you really you're essentially redefining yourself. So it was quite an amazing experience.
And now, how challenging is it now to this restaurant? You told me before we started the interview, you redesigned it, and is that something that you wanted to personally do, or was there a reason behind that?
Yeah, so within Social Eats, kind of redefining what we are and who we are and what we represent is really motivating for me. I think there's just such a demand in this neighborhood for something a little bit more elevated, and that's why we made the decision to get back to being a chef-driven concept and really just kind of up the ante.
Yeah, and your first cookbook is coming out right now. How excited are you about that?
First cookbook is coming out, Flavor Exposed, May 17th. I'm very excited. I think it's very, for me, it's not about going to the store and seeing my picture on the book. It's about me sharing my stories of my life and telling the story of my successes, my failures, the recipes and short stories. Talking about the successes and failures and not hiding behind them, but letting people know that even today it's not easy, but I'm always fighting to better myself, to work with the best, to be the best, and that it really takes sacrifice and commitment to get there.
Right. And now obviously you have to be a passionate person to have passion for the cooking and also now the writing. So what was that experience writing the book like?
Well, I had a co-writer. It's really a fascinating experience because it's really it's a very intimate relationship, and to be very honest with you, it's very therapeutic. Saying it and then reading it, it's kind of like, it's pretty intense. And I think something that the book, what I really love about the book is everything about it is just true. Like, not to say that there's false books, but we made an effort to make sure we just told the true story, even if it was something negative that somebody else could take out of it and learn from my mistakes.
Right.
That was very important for me.
And how do you describe your cooking? Like, is there a certain, what kind of flair do you throw into your cooking?
So I wouldn't say that I cook all mediums. I cook fine dining. I cook Spanish. I cook French. I cook I understand Malaysian, Korean, all of these different nuances of flavors, Ethiopian even. But I look at my cuisine I look at my style as it's not defined by cuisine, but it's defined upon flavors, which the book is about: sweet, sour, salty, bitter, umami, all of these flavors I really focus on. So if I'm cooking Mexican cuisine, it's really just focusing on those flavor profiles and what I call the trinity, and just bringing the ingredients into those dishes.
What's your favorite dish to prepare? Do you have a favorite dish?
My favorite dish to eat is probably pizza. I love kimchi. I'm obsessed with kimchi. I just recently traveled to Korea and I learned so much. So pizza and kimchi is just my go-to thing. I'm a pretty simple person. I like working in high-end restaurants and staging in 3 Michelin star restaurants. Socially it's not a 4-star restaurant, but I take those philosophies, and whether it's the French, or kimchi fries, it's really the philosophies of it being salted properly, it being seasoned. That could be the experience in itself to the customer, could be, once again, redefining, transporting. It can enhance a memory, it can make a memory, or it can bring you to a place of a memory. So that's how I describe my cooking.
And what's it like when you have fans of the show come in or that don't even know that you're here? What's that experience like?
I think it's interesting when they taste it. They know. I think they probably know this is different, and then maybe when they see me walking through the dining room, they're trying to put the two together, and then they realize maybe they've seen me on television, and then they're like, wow, and then they understand that this is something special.
And now you are the first person in your genre of cooking and being on television. What advice do you have for people who are starting out that want to go into culinary school, not even being on television per se, but what advice could you give to them?
Sure, I think it's a great question. I think the most important thing is be around people that want you to succeed. Don't define yourself by failures, but define yourself by what you could learn from that experience. And I think having good people in your life, keeping you in line and keeping you focused is probably one of the most critical things.
And what's next for you other than staying busy here at the restaurant and your book? Is there something that you really are dying to do?
So we just opened Añejo. It's a Mexican tequileria and restaurant on the west side. Is there something I'm dying to do? I'm dying to. I want to travel. I want to travel a lot. I really want to kind of. One pact that I made to myself, especially after being on the Top Chef All Stars, was really just the concept of no compromise and pushing myself to the limit. And I want to travel more. I want to learn more. I want to see more, and I want to bring more to the tables.
How, in terms of advice, it's pretty pretty bold and brave of you to open 2 restaurants in this economy in New York. I mean, what made you put yourself out there like that? Is there, you know, there's got to be more than a passion for food for that. You must have a smart head for business as well. So, you know, there's so many things that you must obviously be good at. Like, what made you want to do, like, wrap all 3 things in, like the entertainment value that you have? You're very entertaining on television. You have a business head. You have the television personality part of the cooking. I mean,
so I guess I'll answer that 2 ways. I think as a chef, a lot of our dreams are to open up our own restaurants. I think it's the important element, if that is your dream, that it's still a business, and you have to know the numbers. You have to understand that how to make money and how to, you know, in the end, that you have to sustain. If you want to sustain your business and sustain your dreams, you have to run the business. So I think I'm very business conscious. I understand, you know, all the elements of the business, but I think more importantly, just going back to the advice that I'd given before, is that it's all about the team, the people that I surround myself with. I have an amazing team of people. My business partners, they're Fortune 100 business strategists, and it's not about, you know, the trajectory of just having a high. It's about being very selective, knowing that it's a long road and it's a long journey, and that you know, you have to plant the seeds within the day. And it's okay to have ambitious goals and dreams, but you have to nurture what's in front of you. And I think something that kind of an equation that works great for us is like the concept of saying no pretty often, and we're very selective of who we work with and who we partner with and who we align ourselves with, because saying no so many times, it kind of aligns ourselves in kind of a very specific niche, and it just allows us to jump even further.
Any plans for another cookbook after this one, or?
I'd say just take one day at a time, see how this one's received, and see how people, I hope, you know, the point of it was for people to be inspired by my stories, and hopefully somebody can learn, you know. And it's very approachable. It's meant for the home cooks. It's very comprehensible. Like, literally there's like 5 ingredients probably per recipe, and it's just like, it's just not intimidating whatsoever.
And what is your message to people, not just home cooks, but like, you seem to always have a message to people in your cooking and in your everyday life?
Sure. Well, within the book or my cooking style, I always within each dish, whether it's French fries, whether it's a hot dog hamburger, whatever that might, foie gras, I always believe there's always a trinity of flavors. So a great example is in Asian culture, you have sweet, sour, salty. I believe, in fact, there's a plethora of flavors, over 25 different flavors, and within each one of my dish, you can have sweet, bitter, earthy, sweet, sour, you know, floral. So that instead of thinking food as, you know, let's just say you're hungry. Typically, people say, I want something. I'm in the mood for something spicy. I'm in the mood for something salty. I'm in the mood for something. Or maybe they're like, I want India, but like there's certain things that are derivatives of that. So what I'm proposing to the home cook or to people when they cook is, why not go to the market and look at, say, I want to create something that's sweet, spicy, salty. So just break up things in that category. So something sweet could be honey, something salty could be prosciutto, something spicy could be jalapenos, and then that could just be endless because there's multiple things that are sweet. Maple syrup is sweet, oranges are sweet.
Right.
Something salty could be smoked salmon, it could be salt, it could be a plethora of things. So it's just a different means of coming to a derivative.
Now, did being on television give you the itch to try acting, or you stay with the cooking?
You know, I'm all about what I do love, you know, going back to traveling. I love the stories that, you know, and I'm somebody, the word fusion has been, I believe, misused, and I believe in fusion. I believe that, you know, if you look at Malaysian, specifically, for example, Malaysian cooking or Chinese cooking, there's so many influences involved. In Malaysian cooking, there's Chinese, Indian, Thai. There's actually even Portuguese influence, and I like to focus on that true fusion aspect, and where I'm not necessarily teaching you, like sitting down and giving you a tutorial, but I'm teaching you through my food. And I'm just, so if someone would be like, well, this is Portuguese, I'd be like, well, no, there's actually a story. So there's Portuguese influence in Malaysia because that's where all the spice trade used to be, and that's where all the ships would dock and the ports. So then there used to be a Portuguese colony, this is the southernmost tip of Malaysia. So that's how I like food.
Any chance you would host your own show? Like a
Love to.
Yeah.
I think that's definitely one of my next steps. Is I want to do a traveling show where I travel the world, be exposed to different flavors, even learn from different cultures, different people, and maybe even impart some of my knowledge to them. Where it's kind of like the interaction.
Very cool. Thank you so much for taking the time to do this.
Thank you.